Okay, we're on page 151.
Okay, excuse me, before we come to the next group.
Yeah.
What does the word mikzoa mean?
Mikzoa?
Yeah.
Mikzoa is like a profession.
I thought Tzarech mikzoa tov.
You need a good profession. Yeah. We can go over. You said you missed the day on Thursday, right, Michal? Michal, you weren't here Thursday either.
I wasn't here. Well, Thursday, are you learning this?
Right, but you're right. But there's been a change. The barrier can't be here on Thursday, so now I do Thursdays also.
So from now on, it's 5 days a week.
Yeah, well, next week I'm traveling, but until I travel, yeah. This week it's all 5 days. So we'll start at 150.
Is Ronald taking over for you?
Well, probably.
Even very well.
Yeah, he does everything well. Yeah. Okay, so Daf 150. Yiladim kmehim la'ein sof. Children are yearning, I guess is the way to say kmehim, but like kama l'chavasari, so your children are looking to be connected with the Infinite One. Lefamim 150. We're starting on 150, okay?
At the beginning?
Yeah. לפעמים ילדים כועסים על ההורים שלהם בגלל שההורים מדברים איתם רק על הגבול. So sometimes children are upset with their parents because their parents are always talking about finite things. אתה צריך מקצוע טוב, you need a good job, you need a good profession, תעשה הרבה כסף, make sure that you make a lot of money, שיהיו לך מכוניות, that you'll be able to have a bunch of cars. ילדים מרגישים, the children are feeling, למה אתם לא מדברים איתנו על מה שאנחנו באמת צריכים? Why don't you speak with us about what we really need? למה אתם לא מדברים איתנו על משהו מהאין סוף? על משהו קדוש ונשגב? Why don't you speak with us about something concerning the infinite, something holy and exalted? Right? I once told you already that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that, like this, like a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old says, Mom, who put this tree here? And his mother says, Hashem. And the kid says, oh yeah. And then the 10-year-old says, who put this tree here? And the kid says, his mother says, God. And the child says, are you sure? Right? So the world says that the 10-year-old is more sophisticated. And that's why he's questioning. The Rebbe says that's not the real reason. The 4-year-old is in this world which is called Alma de Shikha, the world of lies. So he's here only 4 years. He's beginning to forget the emes of Shamayim. And he says, who put this tree here? And his mother says, God put it here. She says, oh yeah, I remember, right? The 10-year-old is already living in Alma de Shikha, living in the world of lies already 10 years. And he's been swallowing the lies of this world. And his mother says that Hashem put the tree here. So now he's got a hard time connecting with Olam HaEmet. So the truth is that children, they naturally, even adults, but children particularly more so, naturally want to hear about something kadosh, about something nisgab, right? You tell when you were 2 or 3 years old, and your father or your mother says, would you like to help me do this? Would you like to help me carry this? And the kid says, yes, right? And the kid is older. Can you take the garbage out? What are you going to give me for that? Right? How am I going to benefit? Right? So it's another example of in other words, the connection with Olam HaEmet is getting weaker. So the kid is thinking more in terms of Olam Hazeh. Everything has a price. Everything you have to get something out of it. But a little child, you say you want to do a mitzvah, the kid says yes, right? And that's what we were explaining also a couple of weeks ago in Parshat Chukat. And it's kedai to know this. There's 2 places Rashi speaks about chukim, laws that we don't know the reason for it. Right? In one place in Vayikra, I think it's Perik Chav Gimel, I don't remember exactly. Anyway, it's over there. It speaks about keeping the mitzvot, keeping the chukim, keeping the mishpatim. So there, Rashi says that the Yetzer Hara comes and the Umot HaOlam, they come and they moneya, and they come and they interfere and they say, what kind of a mitzvah is this? It doesn't make any sense. So you have to know that Gzeirahi Milfanai, this is a decree of mine, and V'yi ata rashai and lipater mimena. You're not free from doing it. You have to do it. In Parshat Chukat, Rashi says, L'fisha hasatan v'mot ha'olam monin et Yisrael, because the Satan comes and bothers the Jews and says to the Jews, what kind of a mitzvah is this? It doesn't make any sense. So you should know that this is a gzera milfanai, ve'en lecha reshut leharher achareha. You don't have any permission to question it. Don't even think about it. So the Reb Shlomo explains why over there in Vayikra does Rashi speak about the Yetzer Hara, and here in Parshat Chukat he speaks about the Satan. And over there Rashi says you should know it's a gzera and ve'ei ata rashai lipater mimena, that you're not potter from doing the mitzvah. Here Rashi says you shouldn't even think about it, right? Don't even think about it, right? Hi, Bakasha, page 150. So he explains like this. He says that basically there's 2 categories of chukim. There's 2 categories of laws that are called chukim. Most chukim are laws that we don't understand the reason for it, but there's parts of it that we do understand. You do understand certain ideas. For example, you don't understand why this is tamei and this is not tamei, but this has got this kind of tumah, or this has got this kind of tumah. But the idea, the general idea of tumah, you understand a little bit. You can understand that, that you got to be fit to do certain things. If you're not fit to do it, you understand that it's seder b'seder, okay? But then you have the chok of para aduma, which you don't understand anything. Para aduma is the classic chok that nothing fits with anything else that you know, right? So when it's a chok that part of it you understand, part of it you don't understand, so then that means that your connection to doing the mitzvah is partially logical, right? It's partially logical. So because you're connected partially on a logical basis, so the Yetzer Hara comes and starts engaging you on a logical basis. Why are you doing this? This doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense, and so on and so on. And there Rashi says that it's the Yetzer Hara that comes to bother you. And Rashi says, listen, you should know that you have no right to, you're not free from doing the mitzvah. In other words, even since you're partly connected to this mitzvah on a logical basis, and even if somebody's going to come and prove to you that it doesn't make sense, still you're not free from doing the mitzvah. But when it comes to para aduma, which none of it makes any sense, so that means that your connection to the mitzvah to begin with is not on the basis of logic. In other words, you're doing the mitzvah, the cont'd, you're doing the mitzvah because it's a mitzvah, nekuda. Right? So here, the Yetzer Hara can't come and bother you on a logical basis. Because, hey, this doesn't make any sense. So I know it doesn't make any sense. So what's your argument? I know that it doesn't make any sense. I'm not connected to it on the basis of logic. Right? So here is the Satan that comes to bother you, not the Yetzer Hara with logical arguments. Now the Satan is coming to bother you in a different way. Now, the word Satan itself as a verb, lahastim, means to block. So he's trying to block you. Now, if you ask a Jew, how could you do something that doesn't make sense? The Jew is going to say, Hashem is far more beyond our understanding, and even though it doesn't make sense to me, it's okay to do a mitzvah that doesn't make sense, because I have a good thing. Thank you very much. It's okay to do a mitzvah that doesn't make sense because God is beyond our intelligence. So what's the Satan trying to achieve? He knows that a Jew is going to say that. He knows that what are you going to say? You're going to say, okay, so it doesn't make sense to me. So what's the Satan knows? He knows you're going to answer him that way. So why is he bothering you in the first place? So the Rebbe explains that what he's trying to do, and why does the Torah say, why does Rashi say, why you don't even have permission? Don't question it. Don't even question it. Because what the Satan is trying to do, he's trying to achieve, he's trying to rob you of the joy in doing the mitzvah. Right? In other words, yeah, you'll end up doing it, but you know why? But you're not going to have the same simcha anymore. And the reason I brought this in, how old is your boy? 4. So he should be I don't know if he's changed or not yet, right? But when you ask him to do a favor, because he's all excited to do a favor nowadays? Usually, right? But when he was younger, even more so, right? So that's what we're saying is that, the younger child doesn't have the interference yet of worldly thinking. He just knows, Mommy wants me to do something. I love Mommy. I want to do what Mommy wants me to do. Okay? You get older, they already start thinking more in worldly ways. You understand? So Rashi says, the Satan is going to bother you. You're going to tell the Satan, I'm doing it anyway. But don't even engage in the discussion, because if you do, he'll have succeeded in robbing you of doing the mitzvah with simcha. Okay? I also didn't, the Lubavitch Rebbe's sichos and Rashi are amazing. Okay?
There is a certain amount of joy in doing that mitzvah. But if you're engaging in a discussion while you're doing it, the joy is lessened. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the job of the Satan, not only for Ramah, but
yeah, bichlal, but it's particularly another mitzvahs that you understand partially and partially you don't understand. So there the Yisroel is coming and saying, wait a minute, you're an intelligent person, you understand part of it you don't understand. So okay, do the part that you understand, don't do the part that you don't understand, or whatever. But he can attack you that way, because to begin with, you're relating to the mitzvah through your intelligence. Take, for example, in the Baal Tshuva world. And when I say that, I mean all of us, okay? Yeah, what I mean is that, because we're all supposed to be Baal Tshuva, okay? But let's say you decide to keep a mitzvah because it makes sense, right? Well, you should know what makes sense to you today might not make sense to you tomorrow. You might meet somebody more intelligent than you who's going to say, your reason for doing this is not so perfect. So what are you going to do then? And even the Mishpatim, the Rebbe points out, even the Mishpatim, for example, lo tignov, don't steal. It's a Mishpat. It makes sense, right? Well, first of all, if you're not going to steal just because it makes sense, you can find yourself in situations where you're going to find a rationale, and you're going to say, or somebody is going to give you a rationale and is going to tell you it's okay, it makes sense to steal. I told you the story. When I was in university, so there was this guy. That he was a black belt in karate and so on. He was a cool guy. So I went over one day. He moved into an apartment. Went over to help him paint, and I see he's got all these brand new tools. And I know that he didn't have any money. So I said to him, how'd you get this? So he says, Ma baya. I said, well, how'd you get it? You don't have money. So he says, there's a hardware store down at the corner. When I need something, I put on my jacket, and I go in, and I put it up my sleeve, and I bring it home. He was supposed to be like a nice guy, right? So I say to him, well, how could you do that? That's stealing. So he says, come on, don't you know that every storekeeper, when they make the prices on something, they know that a certain percentage of their products are going to be stolen. So when they calculate, it costs them $50. They want to make so much and so much profit, $70. And 5% of the goods are going to be stolen, they add it onto the price. So that means that he's already charging everybody more than it's worth because somebody's going to steal it. So if I don't steal it, he's stealing from you.
And that's
his rationalization. You understand? So he's being a tzaddik. He's being a tzaddik, right? You understand? But still, So then the question is, okay, fine. So if you're not stealing because Hashem said nobody's going to convince you differently, but if you're stealing because you think it's wrong, so then somebody can convince you, or you yourself might one day change your mind. Okay. So then the question is, if even the mishpatim we need to do because Hashem told us to, so then what's the point of learning and trying to understand it? The answer is because there's certain mitzvah that Hashem is saying, not only do I want you to do it, I also want your brain to understand it. I want you to understand it too. But the actual doing is because I told you. But at the same time, I want you to understand what this is about. I want you to understand what kind of a person I want you to be. Okay?
And that's the purpose of learning.
And that's the purpose of learning. Okay? To know what you need to do, what you shouldn't do, and also to understand. Which one of you get the darkness?
Also, just the minute of things you can't really get to when you're not learning about it, right?
Depends what. Yeah, but yes, but you need to have the minute. Shalom.
Hello.
Another book. Hi, come to me. Shalom Aleichem. What's your name? What? Shuli. Shalom. Nice to meet you. There's another book on the bottom of the shelf behind you. You see lying flat?
Yeah.
There's two.
What about this one?
That's the same book, but you need one more.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Where are you from, Shuli?
I am from Lakewood.
Lakewood. New Jersey.
Where?
New Jersey. Lakewood's I said Lakewood is in New Jersey, right?
New Jersey.
You don't pronounce New Jersey?
New Jersey.
I knew Jews who say New Jersey. All the immigrants. You're from New Jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when you're out of Lakewood, you're called New Jersey.
No. Every Yid used to say New Jersey. No New Yorker said they're going to New Jersey. Every New Yorker said we're going to New Jersey. I was in an apartment building on in the Upper West Side. On what street is that? West End or whatever. And so look in the elevator. So it says for the floors, first, second, third, fourth. I can just imagine that some Yid who knew that everyone says fourth, so it's for sure. Then the first floor must be first. Anyway, welcome. You know Moshe Rothko?
From Lakewood?
Yeah.
From New Jersey?
Yeah. You know, he has the Karl Wachmanian on Shabbos Mevorchim. He's an optician, an optometrist, no? On Canara, yeah. Canara Drive or whatever it is.
Canara.
Yeah. Along the water. Yeah. Okay, so we're on page 150.
Yeah.
So going back to what Reb Shlomo was saying is that children want to know about holiness. They want to know about God. They want their parents to speak to them about what's kadosh. It's perfectly natural for children. And when I was teaching at a Solomon Schechter school back in Montreal, so one day in a grade 5 class, for a long time for various reasons, I didn't really speak so much about the Rebbeinu Shalom at that time in my life. And one day, I just started saying something about Hashem. And you know how well in all classes, especially in Israel, you went to school in Israel here, right? זה תמיד שקט בכיתה, נכון? כולם מקשיבים למורה בדיוק, נכון? אף אחד לא מדבר חוץ מהמורה, נכון? כן? Of course. So you know that there's always a little bit of a buzz in the class, right? So this one's talking, that one's talking. And to the kids, that's not even noise because their hearing is already impaired from all the sound systems, but never. And anyway, so, and as soon as you started saying something about Hashem, the whole class went totally silent. And everybody stopped their own conversations, and they all turned around and looked at me and now we want to listen. This we want to hear, This we want to hear. And that's okay, it's okay, they came in. This we want to hear. Okay? And that's a natural thing. And the whole thing is that you want to hear about connection. You want to hear about that's what we're people don't want to just know, oh, it says in this book, or it says in this book, or it says in this book, or this rabbi said, or that rabbi said. You want to feel connection. You want to feel connected. Okay? Your neshama wants to feel connected. If somebody's talking and somebody could be saying beautiful divrei Torah, doesn't mean that you're going to listen to them. Because if they're talking in such a way that they're just talking, they're not connected, right? Then you're not gonna be turned on by it. You need to hear. You need to have connection. The other week, I was the Gimel Tammuz was the year set of the 20th year set of the Lubavitch Rebbe, so they sent out a whole bunch of CDs. And so I was watching a video clip, and the Rebbe was telling a story, like a mashal sort of, but it's a story about in the olden days there were a lot of Jews that were living in little villages, rejoicing. And you should know that when Lake was started, that's what it was like. Do you know that? There was Vineland. Where's Vineland? Not far from Lakewood, right? You know Vineland? It's right near Lakewood. There was a whole bunch of Jewish farmers, chicken farmers, that used to live there. And in fact, like, you know, one of my friends from Yeshiva, he was the Rav of Tzfat. He's Rav Levi Yitzchak Ostrisky. He's no longer alive, unfortunately. But his father was a farmer there too. And Moshe Ratzkoff's parents were farmers there. What happened was in the early 50s there was a disease that spread around by the chickens, and the way the government dealt with it then is wherever the disease showed up, they drew a circle on the map of 150-mile radius, and every chicken farm in that radius got tarred and feathered, you know? So like all this whole community overnight, they lost everything, you know. Anyway, but there were even in Canada and America, back in Europe, who, for making a living, they had to live in these little hick towns, right? and it could be like in one town, like there would be one yid, two yid, and, you know. And so how did they educate their children? So like a bunch of them would get together, and they would hire a malamed, they would hire a teacher to come and live by them. And the teacher would live like, you know, like in the center of all these different communities, and people would bring their children, like, you know, 2 hours each way. I still know people that told me that every morning they'd be woken up, the parents would give them a lantern, they were like 5, 6 years old, and they walked through the woods to go to learn Torah. Okay? This was the original job that the Baal Shem Tov ever had. The first job that he ever had was, he was what they call in Yiddish a belfer, which means that he would go and gather the children together and he would walk them to Cheder. Okay? So now a lot of these Yidden didn't even know how to read. They were like, they didn't have an education, they didn't know how to read. And this Yid gets a letter from his father, or from his family, and he doesn't know how to read, so he goes to the Malamed, he goes to the teacher, and says, read the letter for me. But the teacher is reading the letter, and in the letter it says that his father was nifter, right? So as soon as he heard this, he fainted. So the question is, why didn't the teacher who's reading the letter, why didn't he faint, right? And the answer is obvious. Because he's reading about somebody else's father. He's not reading about his own father, right? Okay. So what's the point? The point is like this. If you don't feel connected, it's just information, right? So you're reading in the Torah, Vayam Hashem al Moshe, So when you're saying, oh, God said to Moshe, but if you read it properly, who's God? Hashem is my God. My God said to Moshe. Understand? My father said to Moshe. It's a whole different level of learning. Right? That's what we need, we need that connection. So the fact is that here in this world, right, we lose that because it's Alma de Shikra, right? It's the world of lies. But it's Reb Shlomo saying that children, mamish, are seeking that connection all the time. Right? And if parents don't give it to them they're upset that they're not getting it. Why? What's the power behind Reb Shlomo's nigunim? Honestly speaking, what's the power of his nigunim? That it's more beautiful music than chazanut? No. There's very sophisticated chazanut. There's very sophisticated chazanas. There are people that go walk miles to hear a good chazan, right? And so on, and or majlis music. Shlomo loved majlis music. Majlis music is unbelievably sophisticated, right? His music was just 3 chords, but the whole world is davening with his music. What's so special about it? So I don't know if I told you the story. One day, Rabbi Dr. Avram Tversky, you heard of him? Yeah, the famous Dr. Tversky. He's the Talmud Rebbe, actually. So he was at a concert with Reb Shlomo, and at the intermission, he goes over to Reb Shlomo and he says, you're a thief. He says, what? What did I? They're not your nigunim. Reb Shlomo says, so whose are they? He says, these are the nigunim that the Leviim sang in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Now, you want to take him at his word, you don't want to take him at his word, I don't care, that's your business, okay? But the point is this, is that when Reb Shlomo sang in Nigun, people felt connected. That's the power of his Nigunim. He felt connected. And he said that he never composed the sound, he only received them. So he had the chus to receive these amazing Nigunim, and when he sang them, you felt connected. You felt that you're connected to something, to something holy. And that's the power of the Nigunim. That's why they're so special. For example, there's another Nigun that I heard it back in his time, the Karliner Nigun, Ya 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 da da ya 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 da da da, the Karliner Nigun, right? I heard it back in his day. They said 80,000 people did tshuva just from that nigun, right? So, what is it about the nigun? Yeah, it's a beautiful nigun, but there's a lot of beautiful nigunim, right? But he brought down something that mamish opened up your heart, and you felt connected, right?
And would you say that's the purpose of the mitzvah, to be mikasher with God?
That's exactly the purpose. The word mitzvah itself, the root of the shorvish of the word mitzvah is tzav. The root tzav means command, and it also means connect. Tzvat. Tell them what tzvat means. They don't know. They don't speak Hebrew. Pliers. And tzevet. What's tzevet? A team, right? What makes a team? That is a group of people that are connected around something, right? So a mitzvah, the mitzvah is the connection between. There's the mitzaveh, there's the mitzuveh, the commander, the commanded one. And what connects the commander and the commanded one is the mitzvah.
Why do I have to wait to be the thing before I understood something?
He just says that all the time, just not to embarrass me. Yeah. So, Mr. Shem, it's okay. Just don't forget to invite us to your bar mitzvah.
What?
Your bar mitzvah, invite us to your next bar mitzvah.
So when I become the God of the door from the whole world, we certainly will be in the country.
Can't wait.
I can't wait either. Now I know what it means that parents bring a person to this world and the Rebbe brings them to
It's our teachers, yeah. So he says like this, לפעמים יש רגעים של אין סוף בין הורים וילדים. Sometimes parents do manage to have a moment of infinite with their children. אם מישהו נותן לך $1,000,000, אתה אוהב אותו. אבל לפעמים קורה שמישהו לוחץ, you see where we are?
Middle page?
Page 150, a bit before the middle. אם מישהו נותן לך $1,000,000 ואתה אוהב אותו, somebody gives you $1,000,000, you love them, right? אבל לפעמים קורה שמישהו לוחץ לך את היד ואתה אוהב אותו לנצח. When somebody shakes your hand and you love them forever. מדוע? Why? Because $1,000,000 הם גבוליים. $1,000,000, what can you buy for $1,000,000? Half an apartment in Achlaot? Right? It's not so much, right? But, right, the $1,000,000 is about lechitzat hayad hayta ein sofit. But that handshake that somebody gave you, oh wow, that was like that you felt connected to the infinite. Morai v'rabotai, ככל שאנחנו מתקרבים לימות המשיח, the closer we're getting to Mashiach's arrival, אנחנו יותר רוצים להתעלות מעל עצמנו. We want to go higher than ourselves. We want to get out of our limitations. אנחנו יותר רוצים להיות אינסופיים. We want to be more infinite. היום העולם יודע שאם חלק מהגוף כואב, today the world knows that if one part of the body is hurting, right? We have a healer over here, so then kol haguf tzarich refuah. So then the whole body needs healing, right? העולם נהיה פחות גבולי, right? Western medicine doesn't work that way yet. I mean, although there are now doctors that are realizing it, you know. I told you that you know the story. I had, you should all be well. I had a pretty severe ulcer for 8 years. Finally came to the point that the doctor said, okay, we're going to do surgery. So then I went for a second opinion. He confirmed it. And then the second guy said to me, he says, you should know that if you don't learn how to deal with your stress, you're going to get another one in a couple of years. So that broke my prejudice against meditation. And I went and I learned. I took 4 half-hour lessons in meditation. Okay? And in a month, or maybe it was 5 weeks, the ulcer was healed. Just by meditating 10 to 20 minutes a day, twice a day. And I would still get attacks sometimes, but I could stop them. Just even if I was on a bus and it wasn't like, like, okay, everybody move aside, I gotta meditate now, like even if I was on a crowded bus, I could meditate in my mind and stop the pain in less than 90 seconds. Whereas before I was taking loads of medication and it didn't even help. It was just temporary relief. Because the first doctor, he was looking at one part of the body saying, oh, here's your problem, right? But that's not the truth. If one part of the body is in trouble, the whole body is in trouble. We're an integrated organism. Now, with some parts of the body, it's more obvious than with other parts of the body. Okay, so he's saying that today the world at least already knows that you have to have a holistic approach. העולם נהיה פחות גבולי. The world is becoming less finite, less, yeah, less compartmentalized. אפשר ללכת עם הרגליים שני רחובות, והרגליים נשארות בגבול. You can walk for two blocks on your legs, on your feet, and the feet remain limited. In other words, you don't have any more koyach, 2 blocks, you're tired. אבל אפשר ללכת עם הרגליים לעשות טוב למישהו, but you can walk on the same feet and you're on your way to doing someone a favor, and והרגליים נהיות אין סופיות, and the feet are all of a sudden the limitation is no longer there, right? You can go beyond your limits. Right? What did they say? What did he say? En li koach. But what does en li koach really mean? You know, you ask somebody to do something, they say en li koach. Literally, it means I don't have the strength to do it. But what it really means is I don't feel like doing it. Right? If you feel like doing it, you have the strength to do it. Right? And it's where's that famous place in the States with this statue of somebody carrying somebody, and I think it was a soldier that was carrying somebody else, and the line was, "He ain't heavy, he's my brother." You know that one? No? You know, Reb Shlomo used to visit the Chayalim, and on some occasions he would go to the hospital because, like, you know, the Milchemet Lebanon and so on, and he would go and play for the soldiers who were wounded. So they brought in one soldier, that mamish, a young guy, I think it was a Taimani, and mamish, he had no arms. They'd been shot off, and Reb Shlomo sees that this guy is really special, and the story was that his buddy had been seriously wounded, and he picked him up, put him on his shoulders, and he was running with him all the way back to safety. But in the meantime, as he was running with him, his arms were shot off, and somehow or other he managed to bring him to safety. And he says to Reb Shlomo, he says, you know, did you ever see Avraham Avinu? Shlomo says, no. And he says, he comes to me every night, and he sits on my bed, and he spends the nights with me. Yeah. Now, you know, like, how could he have done what he did? He went beyond himself. He was connected to the infinite. And then there's a documented story that you must have heard already from many people. It's documented in the New England Journal of Medicine from years ago. A woman, an elderly woman, is walking with her adult son who got hit by a car and was strapped under the car. You must have heard this. And she literally lifted the front end of the car so you can get out. Because for a moment, she connected with the infinite and her body didn't get in the way. If she would have thought about what she was doing, she would never have been able to do that. Okay? לפעמים ילד חוזר הביתה מבית הספר והוא צריך סנדוויץ', דבר מוגבל, לחם עם חמאה. Kid comes home from school, he's hungry, he wants a sandwich, some bread and butter. אבל לפעמים הילד צריך סנדוויץ' אינסופי, but sometimes the kid needs an infinite sandwich. Okay? In other words, לפעמים מספיק חברות מוגבלת. Sometimes it's enough that you have a friend that's a part-time friend. You know, we play Scrabble together. You know that Yerushalayim has the biggest Scrabble club in the world? I found that out recently. In case anybody here is a Scrabble fan, and you were wondering what to do. So I heard that Yerushalayim has the biggest Scrabble fan club in the world. Okay, so you can have, like, oh, you're my Scrabble friend, you're my chess friend, you're my tennis friend. You know what I mean? Like that's chaverut mugbelet. It's limited friendship. Okay. But, אבל לפעמים זה מוכרח להיות חברות אינסופית. Sometimes you need to have ממש infinite friendship. מתי שיש לך קשר אינסופי עם מישהו, if you're connected with another person on an אינסופי level, on an infinite level, יש לך ברית עם השם. Then you know, then you are in the covenant with God. מבחינת הברית שהייתה לאברהם אבינו עם השם. Then you're on the level of the covenant that Hashem had with Abraham Avinu. B'chinat means the aspect. It's the same kind of brit that you had, the same kind of connection that Abraham Avinu had with Hashem. Right?
I don't understand. Abraham Avinu was connected to somebody else and through that to Hashem, or he was connected to Hashem as I would be connected to a friend?
Abraham Avinu, what he's saying over here is like this. First of all, you should know that, and this is something that you have to think about a lot. Baal Shem Tov says that Ahavat Yisrael is the gateway to Ahavat Hashem, not the other way around. In other words, it's not that it's not enough that because I love God, because God said love you, so therefore I love you, right? Mm-hmm. That's the way most people think about things, right? But the truth is, what the Baal Shem Tov is saying is that if you love God and you don't chas v'sholem love all of Am Yisrael, your love for God is not really a true love. The only way that we can achieve a true love of Hashem is through Ahavat Yisrael. Okay? But here he's talking about something a little bit different. He's saying that what is the whole brit with Abraham Avinu? It's a brit of eternity. Okay? It's a brit of Lanetzach. It's an aspect of Lanetzach. Now, what does that mean? How do you experience nitzchiyut, eternity, in this world? Right? So it can be experienced, right? Because you're making a brit with Hashem, right? But, okay, so have I personally experienced it? Have you personally experienced it? So what he's saying is that when you are connected with another person on the level of Ein Sof, right? In other words, you feel like I'm your friend forever, right? Then that is an experience of the nitzchiyut, of the brit between Avraham Avinu and Hashem. Okay? God comes to visit Avraham Avinu. He just had his circumcision, right? And he's in pain, right? The Chazal say it's the third day after the bris. It's the most difficult day, right? Avraham Avinu has servants. If he's concerned about welcoming guests into his house, he can tell Eliezer, "Well, listen, I don't feel so great. You go sit outside and you make sure that if there's somebody that's walking by that's hungry, that you bring him in." Okay? No, he's doing it himself. My friend is at the door. He's doing it himself, right? Where's he getting the koyach? How old was he? 99. Where's he getting the koyach? What's this man made of that he's able to do this? Where's he getting the koyach? And he's getting the koyach from being connected, so connected that the body doesn't interfere. The body goes along with what the neshama wants to do. Okay? The Baal Shem Tov was a healer, you know that, right? So how did he heal? In what way was he healing people? He basically saw what their problem is on a spiritual level. And he was fixing them spiritually, but he would also give them some herbs or something like that, so that it would make it easier for people who need something tangible. You know what I mean? It's like if somebody has a headache and they go to somebody and they start doing laying of hands and so on. For a lot of people, they're very resistant to that. Give them a pill, I feel better, because we're so megusham, we're so physically based in this world that it's hard for us to understand that there's something higher that can affect the whole thing. But the truth is that everybody knows that. When you go to a wedding and you're dancing, you're happy, right? When you're besimcha, your body moves differently. Notice that? Your body moves differently, right? When you're not besimcha, everything is a schlep. This is heavy, that's heavy, this is hard, that's hard, right? So it's everybody experiences this, that your attitude, that your emotional state affects your well-being physically, right? And the same is true. The same true is with your spiritual state. So there's no question that we could do this. And Reb Shlomo is just basically pointing out that we need to connect on that level. You take the last Mishnah in Brachot. I wish I would know all Mishnayos Balpeh, but I just happen to know that this one's the last Mishnah in Masechet Brachot. Okay, so it says Mishikil Kilu Haminim, when they're precursing, we're making a lot of problems, and they were the ones that said that they believed in God, but that God created the world, and then He had better things to do, so He put in a few batteries into the world, and that the world is sort of operating on its own, and God doesn't pay attention to, am I going to the shuk or not going to the shuk, whatever it is, right? He's too busy for that, so to speak, or this is not interesting enough for him. So they were saying that, so the Chachamim made two takanot. One is that the verse that says, Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael min ha'olam, blessed is the God of Israel, of the world. So they added the ad ha'olam. The original pasuk was Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael min ha'olam, and they added the ad ha'olam. In other words, in all worlds, the presence of God is there. And then v'od hitkinu, they made another takana, that shehei adam shoel v'shlom chaviro b'shem. When we say hello to each other, we say hello using God's name. Which name of God? Oh, Shalom. Shalom is one of God's names, right? So what's pshat? Let's say you meet somebody who Chas v'Shalom doesn't believe that God is present in this world, and you say Shalom. It makes a difference. That's a takana for the meaning. And the pshat is that you're not allowed to say Hashem's name in vain, right? Levatala, right? So when you're saying Hashem's name and you're saying Shalom to somebody, on a conscious level, what we're supposed to be thinking is, wow, this is a gift. Hashgacha pratit, it's a gift from Hashem that you and I are meeting right now. Okay? And you say Shalom, you're bringing the presence of Hashem into this meeting. And when you do that, and it's mamish sincere, the other person realizes, yeah, God is not just somewhere in heaven, God is actually here too. Okay? And that's the aspect of the brit with Avram Avinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That God is here amongst us. And we learned it a couple of weeks ago, right? How Reb Shlomo said, you walk into a house, how do you know if somebody's living there or not? So you see, if there's furniture, it means that somebody's living there. If there's no furniture, nobody's there. How do you know if Hashem is in this world or not, well, you got to look for the furniture. What's the furniture? The furniture is Ahavat Yisrael. You see that people mamish love each other in a real way. That's the presence of Hashem in the world. Just like with the Chuvim and the Aron HaKodesh, the voice of Hashem came mibein shnei Chuvim. The voice came from the space between the two Chuvim. In other words, when they were looking at each other, right? If they weren't looking at each other, there was no, right? Okay. So this is basically the whole Indian that we're talking about now. And the truth is that children are more open and honest about the fact that they want to hear about the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Adults also want to hear about the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but they're not. Either they're too shy or they're so out of touch with it and so on that they don't really speak that way, or they don't let on to it. But the truth is that even adults, that's what everybody wants. And I told you the story. Michal, you remember Reb Shlomo once went to visit an army base, and the Rav of the army base comes out with a big Baruch Haba, and he says, I want you to know, so Shlomo says, how are things over here? So he says, I want you to know that the kitchen over here is perfectly kosher. So Reb Shlomo says, I didn't come to eat your hot dogs through Naknikim. I'm asking you, when I asked you how things are in the army, I'm not asking you about the kashrus of the kitchen. I want to know, are you learning Torah with the Chayalim? And the rabbi says, are you serious? Are you kidding? These guys, they have no interest in learning. Shlomo says, really? Would you like to bet? He says, yeah. He says, how much money you got in your pocket? He said that he had a couple hundred shekels. Shlomo says, you want to bet a couple hundred shekels that these guys want to learn Torah? He said, yeah. And Shlomo said, there was a group of chayalim that were standing around not so far away. They're having a cigarette, whatever. Shlomo goes over to them and says, Chavre, would you like to learn the sweetest Torah for 5 minutes? And these were kids who grew up, not religious. And they looked at him and he said, yeah. He said, yeah. And he started learning with them. And their mefaked had to come and drag them away a half an hour later. There's no such thing as a Yid who doesn't want to learn Torah. If the Torah that you want to learn with him is going to make him feel connected. It's the natural state of the neshama to want to be connected. The neshama wants to be connected with its source. Right? The example that's always given is that, like a flame, right? The flame is going up. Doesn't matter which way you turn it, the flame is always going to go back because it's going back to its source, to its source of fire in the sun, right? So that's the teva of a Jewish neshama is to be connected, to want to be connected. But sometimes we forget. Okay, so we continue tomorrow, Mr. Hashem. Shavua Tov, Shnishma B'Savot Tovat.
Very much.
Staffis?